Hello, this is Liz Wendling, and welcome to the Sales Experts channel and my webinar on Watch Your Sales Language, what to say and what to avoid in your email and online communication. Your virtual sales language has the power to shut people down and cause them to doubt you, and your language has the power to open people up and trust you. So there are certain words and phrases that change the way people perceive you in an email or in online communication, and that is positively or negatively. I am one of 75 global experts on the Sales Experts channel, and I encourage you to visit the site, sign up for additional content and educational webinars, and tap into the information buffet of knowledge and expertise that's available to you. And all the information on the Sales Experts channel is included in the webinar notes below, along with my contact information, links to my website, books, and ways to get a hold of me after the webinar. And later on in the webinar, I'll share a link with you to a free audio program that I have for you. My company is Insight Business Consultants, and I am the author of Sell Without Selling Your Soul and The Heart of Authentic Selling. As a sales and business consultant, much of my work these days revolves around helping companies and individuals nationwide to revive, refresh, and modernize their sales approach, language, and process. And I show them how their sales language patterns and habits can help them or hurt their efforts to communicate successfully and close more business. I teach them how to turn their words into profits. And my favorite people to work with are those growth-oriented professionals who are ready and willing to be more conscious, more authentic, and more intentional about their approach to engaging prospects and clients. I write, I teach, I preach, and I speak sales. It's one of my favorite topics. So for the next 45 minutes, I am going to scratch the surface and put a dent in one of the biggest issues that's plaguing online prospecting and online communication these days, and that is your language. The language you are using to communicate, connect, and engage with busy prospects and the internet-empowered consumer. We're going to talk about the language that pulls people in and the language that pushes people away from you. I'll elaborate on specific language that shows up in your text, your prospecting emails, follow-up messages, all the way to your LinkedIn and email communication. The language that costs you opportunities in sales. The language that can come across as cheesy and tacky, spammy, and sales pitchy, even though I know that's not your intention. We'll talk about why predictable and generic words and some phrases suck the power out of your communication, weaken your message, and cause your emails to be ignored and deleted with disappointing frequency. You'll learn why some words and phrases no longer capture the attention of your prospects. They actually repel. Because if you can't get someone's attention, you will never, ever get their business. So you'll leave here today with some insight and language that you can use immediately to improve your sales and online communication. Because the bottom line is this: your ability to communicate effectively determines if people trust you, buy from you, if they follow you, listen to you, or do they completely dismiss you. Every day I talk to professionals who tell me they are using all the tools of technology and they're emailing and they're prospecting on LinkedIn and Facebook and all the other platforms that are out there, but they can't get any traction. They're trying to start online conversations, but they can't get those conversations off the ground. Their messages are going into a black hole. Maybe you can relate. A very expensive black hole where opportunities and income disappear forever. And it doesn't have to be that way. So let's go ahead and hop in. There's an old expression that says, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Well, that decades-old expression made a ton of sense, a lot of sense prior to the internet, when people did face-to-face meetings and had a lot more human-to-human interaction, a time where body language made up for about 55% of communication. Well, you were in the physical presence of another human being. 38% was voice, your tone, and your speed, where you could actually hear the energy and the intention of what was being said. And only 7% came from words. Only 7%. Not anymore. Now we're at a time when emails and texts have taken over a significant percentage of all of our interactions. Messaging online, whether you're texting, emailing, actually removes two very critical elements of communication, and that is your voice and your body language. Now, when you remove 55% of body language and 38% of your voice, that means 93% of your communication is taken out. 93% of what used to help us connect, communicate, and engage is now completely gone. So when two of the largest influences in your communication are stripped away, you better believe that what you say and how you say it matters, and it matters more now than ever. Because you're writing to people who can't see your face, hear your voice, or watch your body language. When you remove eye contact, body posture, gestures, physical contact, facial expressions, voice, tone, delivery, inflection, and volume, all you have left are the words that you used. The vast majority of your communication is now by words alone. We're having more and more virtual conversations than ever before, and it's only growing. So it is going to be up to you to take control and start crafting messages that are read instead of deleted, and messages that create interest, not resistance. When it comes to connecting, building relationships, and prospecting online, there are some people who do it in a very modern, authentic, and intentional way. They're good people doing good work, and they care. Then there are others who don't give a rip, and they are out there playing the numbers game. They send cheesy, tacky, spammy, self-serving, salesy, and pitchy messages. And these people are attempting to take a shortcut on creating trust and credibility, and they think that they can hop on the easy path to building relationships and closing business. These people are ruining it for every professional in every industry. They give sales a bad name, and it's only getting worse. Their online behavior reinforces that negative stereotype that's been around for decades when it comes to sales and selling. Anyone who has an email address, LinkedIn account, or any social media account has been the recipient of spammy messages that are inauthentic, self-serving, and come across as a giant sales pitch. That means you have to ensure that your messages don't come across spammy, salesy like theirs. Now, many professionals don't get the results they desire because of the way they're communicating online is getting in the way. Some of you unknowingly are sending messages, sometimes dozens a day, that can sound salesy, self-serving, because you're using the same words and phrases and language as some of the spammers. You have some bad habits, bad language habits, and patterns that sabotage your efforts. They dilute your power and diminish your ability to present with power and confidence. And I call them word landmines, lazy language, and phrase grenades that show up in your communication and cause opportunities to blow up. And I have lots of examples to share with you. So when your communication is strictly online first, 93% of that communication is stripped away, like I said. Once you meet someone in person, once you get in front of someone, all bets are off. You then can use body language and tone. That still matters. But when it comes to what we're doing now and how people are building their businesses and getting in front of prospective clients, it is almost all on the virtual level. So that is why what you say matters so much more than ever before. What you say matters, because if you can't get someone's attention, you're never going to get them to get back to you. And the content of your online messages reveals your intention and your level of expertise to a potential client. Your words tell people in a few short seconds if your message is worth reading or deleting. Your words show people if you're someone who is concerned about their best interest, or are you only out to make the sale. Now let's get into some examples in the language that I'm talking about. And as I go through them, I want you to pay attention and think about how many of these words and phrases are showing up in your messages or text or any of your online communication. Think about where you use them in your day-to-day language. Now, my examples are in no particular order. They are all equal offenders, and this is a very, very short list of many, many, many more for another time in another webinar. Now, also, keep in mind, I can tell you what not to say, but I can't tell you exactly what to say in your messages because I have no clue where you are in your sales process, who you're trying to start a conversation with, where you are in your follow-up process or in your prospecting plan. Plus, I don't know you, your personality, your style, your industry, your business, your goals, or what you're trying to accomplish. I know you're smart and you can take what we're talking about today, take what you hear and change it to fit in your world. And if you need more help after the webinar, you can contact me. But let's talk about minimizers. The minimizers you use before you get to your message. Minimizers are the words that lower your status. They sound apologetic. They actually sound like you're apologizing for you doing your job. They diminish your credibility and they weaken your message. It is where you give away your power. This is what they sound like. I know you get a lot of emails, so I'll be brief. I know you have a lot going on, so I don't want to keep bothering you. I know you're busy, so I won't waste your time. I know your plate is full, so I'll get to the point. I know you're swamped, so I'll be quick. All the way to excuse my persistence. Sorry to trouble you again. I hate to keep bugging you. Stop. Stop apologizing. Stop diminishing yourself. Stop giving away your power and confidence in the first sentence of your email. These phrases, I want you to keep in mind, these phrases are not for the recipient. They're for you. You use these phrases. You deploy these phrases because they put you at ease and they make you feel good using them. They are not for you at all. They are not for the recipient. They make the recipient roll their eyes. They're for you and you alone. They make you feel like you're being nice while you're being persistent, but they're self-serving to you, not the receiver. So starting out your communication in this way puts you in a lesser than position. And it actually starts to create an imbalance between you and your potential client or your customers. And in that imbalance is exactly where the chasing starts and the sales games begin. And your potential client, your ideal customer, starts treating you differently because you're coming across as someone who is putting themselves in that lesser than position, and they start treating you that way. So the fix to this is don't waste your time telling people you know how busy they are or how sorry you are for interrupting them. You want to show them that you understand that they're busy. And you do that by getting to the point. You do that by getting to the reason of why you're connecting and communicating with them. So when I'm in communication with someone, and it's what I teach my clients, is I strip away that minimizer. I wouldn't even dream of teaching that or telling someone to use that and taking out a sentence that says, I don't mean to bother you or sorry to be so persistent. I jump right to Steve. In our last conversation, you and I talked about XYZ. And I recall the timing of your project was early June. There are a few things that we still need to discuss and some logistics we need to talk through. And then I may continue and add a strong call to action. But using a minimizer makes it sound like you have all the time in the world and they're so busy and you're not. With people receiving dozens, if not hundreds of emails a day, the more impactful your communication is, the better. These corny phrases are nothing but a waste of time. And again, they're for you, not for the recipient. Leave out these minimizers and keep your power because these words don't help you to radiate confidence. They cause you to convey weakness. And when you omit these minimizers, you have no choice. You have absolutely no choice but to get to the point, to get to the meat of your message and say what you want to say. And a way to help you unravel this tactic is to feel free to sit down at your email and type in one of those minimizers and then type in your next sentence and go back and remove the minimizers and watch what will happen to your email. You don't need the minimizer, so start where you would normally start anyway after you put the minimizer in. Strip these away. They don't help you. They don't help your confidence. And why would you want to convey weakness right out of the gate? Now the next word is the F word, one of my favorite topics to talk about. It's not only the F word, it's the F word counterparts, which are touching base, reaching out, and checking in. There is an old phrase, I don't even know how old it is, but it is decades old, that says, fortune is in the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up. Now, of course, you have to stay in touch, and you have to keep the momentum going. But these days, that phrase should now say, the fortune is in how you follow up, what you say in your follow-up. And here's what I mean. The way people are following up these days is the same exact way people have been following up for decades. Yeah, decades. Their follow-up methods and their language are behind the times and are in dire need of an update. Nothing screams 1980s and 90s quite like, I'm just following up, I'm touching base, I'm reaching out, and I'm checking in. Here's what it sounds like, and I would bet that most people are using this language. Hi, Marie. I wanted to follow up and see if you had any questions regarding the proposal I sent. Hi, Mark. Just a friendly follow-up to see if you're ready to get your program started. Hey, Jason. I'm touching base to see if you're still interested in working together. Hi, Todd. Just a quick follow-up from the message I sent you earlier this week. Beth, I just wanted to quickly check in from my last email. Hi, Vito. I wanted to touch base one more time to make sure that you have what you need regarding the workshop. And this list goes on and on and on. So yes, there's fortune in the follow-up, but there will be no fortune if you continue to follow up this way. These valueless messages and follow-up language actually comes across needy. Most of the time this language falls flat and it fails to engage the recipient, and it causes you to have to follow up, touch base, reach out, and check in again and again and again. Now, I know you're well-intended, and I know you're doing your job, but this language doesn't inspire a response because they sound like every other email that lands in someone's inbox. This type of follow-up is boring, they're bland, they're generic, and they're typical. They make you blend right in versus stand out. Full and bloated inboxes all over the world are filled with follow-up messages that don't motivate and inspire someone to respond to them. Now, there's nothing wrong with follow-up, but there's something wrong with follow-up that screams, I have no respect for your time and I have no respect for your inbox. It's time to change that. Now, I know that follow-up, touching base, reaching out, and checking in emails make you feel like you're ticking it off the box and doing your job, and it feels like you're moving the prospect forward, but it's not. They make you feel like you're keeping the momentum going, but it's not. If your previous emails have no value, you'll not get a response. People do value follow-up if there's value in the follow-up. So if your messages do not convey any type of value, people usually just brush them off. Now, I want to just point something out before I get into the fix and some language that you could use. Follow-up is not an event. It's not just something you check off your box and say, I followed up with Mary, I followed up with Jane. Follow-up is a process. Follow-up is a process of how you and your potential client, if you've already engaged with them, how are you moving forward in the follow-up process? How are you staying engaged through their decision-making process? And sometimes I'll even ask a client, how would you like us to stay in communication? How would you like me to communicate with you moving forward? How would you like us to keep this conversation alive? And I get their buy-in and their words so that if I do have to follow up without using the follow-up word, I can do it by the examples I'm about to share. So here's the fix. First things first is remove the words just following up, touching base, reaching out, and checking in from your emails and in the subject line. So many people like the F word, like the follow-up word, they throw it in their subject line. You might as well say, don't bother reading this because it's just a follow-up to get you to do something. First of all, why do you have to announce that you're doing that activity? It's obvious you're getting back to someone. Why do you have to announce, I'm just following up, I'm just touching base? You want to get to the point. Go right into what you want to say. You might be sensing a theme here that people are busy and they want you to get to the point. They want you to leave out all that fluff and those minimizers and get to the point, even in your follow-up. And you can say something like, "Hi, Mark, are you ready to pick up the conversation where we left off? Hey, Tom, the last time you and I spoke, you suggested that we reconnect this week to discuss XYZ. Jan, it's been some time since our last meeting, and I wanted to pick up where we left off regarding A, B, or C. Dan, did you get a chance to review the setup for the conference room? Tom, I didn't want to drop the ball on our conversation from a few weeks ago." And you get right into the conversation. I want you to start treating someone's inbox like your own and skip the words that add no value. Skip those words that don't move you forward and actually cause you to have to follow up 6, 8, 10, 15 times. If you have to follow up that many times, that is a sign that your message is lacking impact. If your prospects or potential clients are not engaging with you, it's time to shake things up, rattle the cage, and change your language so you can change your results. How can prospects differentiate you from anyone else in their inbox if you're using the same language as everyone else on the planet and speaking the same language that we've been speaking for 30 years? This is an opportunity to take yourself off autopilot and engage in a different and noticeable way. By doing so, this takes you, it takes you off of autopilot and forces you to make sure you articulate what's in the receiver's interest to reply. Why would somebody want to reply to a message like that if there's nothing in there that's interesting for the receiver? You want to make it easy for them to reply. In today's busy, fast-paced world of constant intrusions, people are reading their emails with their finger on the delete button. And you can't afford to interrupt prospects without providing some value and a compelling reason for them to keep that verbal exchange going. It is up to you to, if you do get that face-to-face meeting, talk about follow-up. But if you don't get that chance and you are just communicating online, you have to be very careful with your words so that there's some sort of energy and momentum in your follow-up messages. Otherwise, you will find yourself following up over and over and over again. And whenever I'm presenting or doing a workshop, someone will say to me, "How many times do I follow up before I give up? How many times should I send follow-up messages before I know that I'm being blown off?" And I always say to people, that's the wrong question to be asking me. The question is, what am I saying in my follow-up messages that's causing people to blow me off? What is causing people to totally ghost me? Take a look at what you're saying in those emails, and maybe it requires a rewrite. Maybe there's not enough energy or momentum in there for them to want to give you a sliver of their time and email you back. So we've talked about minimizers, we talked about the F word, and now let's talk about filler words. Filler words, I call them crutch phrases and lazy language. These filler words are the most common outdated email opening lines that irritate and aggravate and come across, oh, so cheesy and phony. Plus, keep in mind, many spam messages start out with this inauthentic and impersonal approach. The following examples used to be, in the past, in the 80s and 90s, friendly pleasantries, we would say, back in the day. Now they are useless phrase grenades that add no value whatsoever. And they sound like this. Starting out your message in this way is a phrase grenade. Hope you're doing great. I hope you had a good weekend. I trust this email finds you well. I trust this message finds you well. I hope you're having a productive day. Hope all is going well for you. Really? Do you? First, if you don't know me at all and you start interacting with me that way, it comes across phony, oh so phony and insincere. You don't know me and you really think that I think you're sitting there wishing that I had a great weekend or hoping that I have a productive day. When you start out that way, it is insincere. And next, even if I do know you or maybe interacted with you a little bit in the past, it still comes across as a throwaway phrase that everyone else is using. And I know you're trying to be nice, and I know your messages are attempting to make a connection, but why, oh why, would you want to start sounding like this? Start your emails that sound like you got stuck in 1990 and use the same language millions of other people are using. Just like those minimizers, these are there for you, not the receiver. These make you feel good. They don't make the other person feel good. Your first sentence needs to assist the recipient around the intention of your email. This allows them to decide if your message needs to be addressed immediately. Maybe it needs to just be filed away as informational, or it can be handled later, or as a junk. Your first few sentences need to be able to help somebody get a sense of what I do with this person's email. Otherwise, it just keeps dropping lower and lower and lower in someone's inbox, and eventually that gets deleted. Or it causes you to have to send another message that says, I'm just following up, just trying to find out if you got my last 14 emails. Don't waste precious seconds using inauthentic fluff and crutch words, and get to the point. Again, here we go again. Get right to the point. People are busy these days, and those spam messages start out the same way. I must get 20 messages in my spam folder every single day, and at least half of them start out with one of these pleasantries that only make me roll my eyes. So every time I teach this concept to someone, they will push back and say, well, why can't I be nice? Why can't I say something nice to someone? And I am not suggesting that you do not be a nice person, that you are not kind, and you don't be sincere or show up as a human. I want you to be nice and kind and sincere, but I want you to do that first, getting to the point of why you're barging into someone's inbox. And I also teach people to write their email backwards. So when you think about it, you could put this at the end. At the very end of your email, you can say, hope you had a great weekend. If you really, absolutely, positively have to be nice and have to put something in there, put it at the end. Add something at the end. It is not needed in the beginning, and why would you start giving away your power right in the first few sentences? And why would you want to look like a spammer right out of the gate? If people are only seeing the first few words of your email, let's say they're looking at a text or a message online, that might signal to them that you're spam, and you get shuttled off to the delete before they even open your email. Why would you give them that chance? So get to the point and leave these out. Now let's move on to one more word, the L word. And it sounds like this. These two are minimizers and fillers here. And they sound like this. I would love to jump on a call next week to discuss X. I would love to grab lunch and talk with you about Y. Or I would love to chat with you or how we can help each other out. I'd love to set up a meeting. I would love to tell you more about how I can help. Love the chance to work with you. I'd love the opportunity to serve you. Now, no matter how you say that, it comes across super self-serving, needy, excited, and a little desperate. And here's why. Because it's all about you and what you want. Now, again, even though I know that's not what you mean, it is how it's felt. It is how it's heard by the receiver. It is how it lands on them. They're rolling their eyes and saying, yeah, sure, of course you'd love to meet with me. You want to try to sell me something. And when you say to someone, I would love to meet with you, I would love to set up a demo, you come across as making a demand versus making a request, because it's what you want, not what they want. When you say, I would love to meet with you, I'd love to set up a time, or I'd love to grab some coffee, it doesn't take into account the other person. It's, don't I get a say in this? Don't I get a vote if I want to do this? You want to give the other person a chance. When you say, I would love to meet with you, your potential client is thinking, well, what would I don't know that I love to do that. So it comes across as that demand versus a request. So there's very different language to use here. But before I give you the language, I want to share with you that it will cause people to shut down when you are demanding and you say, I would love to set up a demo and show you all about how great I am. Because it comes across so self-serving and the other person isn't taken into account, what they tend to do is lie to you. You put them on the spot, especially if you're saying this to someone in person. and you say to someone, oh, I'd love to get together and find out more about what you do, or I'd love to show you my new products or services, it puts them on the spot, and they wind up having to lie. Oh, I'm really busy. Okay, well, why don't you shoot me an email? And then they completely blow you off because you told them what you want to do instead of inviting them into a conversation. I read hundreds of emails a week because before I start working with a client or a company, I will have them send me a lot of their correspondence. So I can get a baseline of what their messages are saying, what those messages are conveying. And the L word, the L bomb is dropped constantly. I see it all the time, and I also hear it when I'm out networking or at conferences, and it just becomes one of those phrases that doesn't mean anything anymore. So if you're using it in your emails and your communication and people aren't responding to you, if you say, I would love to, and they're not getting back to you, it's because you are demanding and commanding, you are not inviting. So here's some inviting language that you can use, and take this and see how this would fit into your world. Stan, are you open to getting a meeting on the calendar this week or next? I use the word you, not I would love. Hi, John. How do you feel about sitting down and chatting about? Anne, what do you think about syncing up our calendars to discuss X? Hey, Mark, are you available sometime in the next few weeks to sit down and take a closer look at some of the challenges you and I talked about? So instead of telling someone what you would love to do to them, use you statements, Y-O-U statements. Because the L word is so overused and completely abused, you've got to strip that out of your communication as well. And here's another way where it's overused and abused. And really pay attention to this. I hear this all the time, and I just want to, I get so mad when I hear this, because what happens is even when people use the love word this way, it comes across super self-serving. If I said to you, I love your hair. Oh, I love your tie. I love your shoes. I love that dress. I love your book. That's self-serving as well, because you're making that compliment about you. We're so in love with love that we make everything about us. And again, I know you're not doing it intentionally, but you don't realize the impact that it's having on the other person. Instead, imagine giving that compliment to the person it belongs to. When you say, your hair is gorgeous, or your book is fantastic, your home is lovely, it lands with more impact. You could say, your book is fantastic, your boots are stylish. But my clients tell me that they didn't even realize how many times, they were using this not only in their personal life, but in their professional life. Love is not a professional word. And if your emails are littered with the L word, it's time to get in there and shake that up. And I have heard from countless clients that this was one of their hardest habits to break. They use it all the time, and it's just a go-to language and a default word that people are using all over the world. You can love the planet, love your kids, love your neighbor, love your spouse, but leave love out of your business. You can write emails without being annoying, without coming across as old school and self-serving. But you have to want to make the time to make this change. You have to want to be able to do this. And I tell people, you can keep doing what you're doing, and you can keep sending messages the way you've been sending, but you will have to be okay with generating the results that you've been generating. And if you choose to do nothing, you can go back to using word landmines and your phrase grenades and your lazy language, but you must know that you will have to work twice as hard. You will have to talk to 4 times as many people, and you will have to deal with more rejection than the human body should handle. Now I want to throw in one more bonus one before we wrap up, and here's another one that comes across needy and desperate and very old school. When you pick up the phone, let's say you're calling someone. This is more when it's when you're actually picking up the phone, and you say, "Is this a good time to talk? Did I catch you at a good time? Do you have a minute? Do you have a second?" First of all, implying that what you say isn't worth much time when you say, "Do you have a minute? Do you have a second?" Ask for the time that you need and be direct. But first of all, when you say, "Is this a good time to talk?" It's never a good time. Is it ever a good time anymore? Everyone is busy. If you say, is this a good time to talk? Chances are you're not going to hear, oh yeah, I just cracked a beer. I've got all the time in the world. What can I help you with? No, most people, it's never a good time. We're always in the middle of something. So instead of saying, did I catch you at a good time? Is this a good time to chat? I want you to shift that around and shake them up because they're not expecting you to say this. Have I caught you at a bad time? Hey, John, is this a bad time? Or, Bob, it sounds like you're in the middle of something. Turn that around because what will happen is they'll say, well, you know what? It's always a bad time. What can I help you with? It's a pattern interrupt in their brain, and it helps you to not have someone to say to you, yeah, I am busy, call me back, and then you never have the opportunity to get them on the phone live again because they might blow you off. So you want to just pattern interrupt that. Have I caught you at a bad time? And it's said with tonality, too. You want to think about how that's landing as well. You don't want to come across like, is this a bad time? You want to have a nice tone about it. Have I caught you at a bad time? Hey, John, is this a bad time? So check where you're doing that as well. So those are what you need to avoid in your online communication. You know what you need to say now and how you can change that. This is going to take some time. But if your written communication is the bulk of your communication, it may be time to clean things up and be more intentional so that you can be more impactful. Starting today, you can change your language in your written communication and interaction and change it so much that it leaves both you and your prospective client feeling good about you and your process. And it feels good in your heart and soul that you're communicating in a completely different way than everyone else on the planet. And when you do, you will notice a visible change in how people perceive you and interact with you. Look, there's too much competition these days to be average. Average doesn't cut it anymore. And the development of effective language will take some time and practice. And it's going to be unique to you. It's not a one-size-fits-all. If I came on this webinar today and told you what to say, then I'm doing nothing but telling you to say what everyone else is saying. This is your opportunity to take what you learned and weave it into what you're doing. But it will require you to spend some time thinking about what you want to say and what you want to convey before you hit send. Crafting well-written emails forces you to clarify your intention and concentrate on the power you can infuse into your sales messages. It forces you to work off of autopilot. Now, this isn't forever. It's only until you start training yourself into sending engaging emails, not self-serving emails, sending emails that have great energy and intention in them, not those emails that sound spammy. Now you are in full control of your online communication. You do have the power to write emails and have language that attracts people, not repels them. Your words will either create interest or they will generate resistance. So if people aren't responding, you may be putting resistance in your emails and you don't even know it. I gave you all I can in the time that I have, but that's not all I have. I mentioned I have a free gift for you that dives a little deeper in some of the things that we talked about today when you're communicating face-to-face and online. And I'm an email away. If you feel like your sales approach, language, or process needs a tweak, an update, or a full-blown transformation, I'm your gal. And also in both of my books, I have some of the same information we talked about. And again, I go into a little bit deeper. I have the opportunity in 20-something chapters versus just 45 minutes on a webinar. But I want you to go for 21 days. See if the next 21 days you can stop yourself, spend a few extra minutes on your emails and your online communication and stop and ask yourself, is this what I really want to convey? Is this message going to land with the impact that I want it to land with? Or is it just going to fall flat and result in another blown off message? Because it's magical when people start engaging with you and responding to you instead of ghosting you. It is so magical when your online communication has that energy to keep that momentum going. You can do this. You can send those well-crafted, well-worded messages that land with that impact and deliver results. Until the next webinar, bye for now.